There we go. Welcome, everyone. The wrong button. Welcome, everyone, to the Marijuana Time Show. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's December 4th, 2017. Of course, thank you to everyone who watches and shares the show and all that. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook. Of course, the iTunes, Apple Podcast, audio podcast as well. Just search on Apple Podcasts, and you'll find the audio podcast of the show, the Marijuana Time Show. You can find us all on a lot of writers, a lot of great writers, such as myself at marijuanatimes.org as well. All the latest on the cannabis community and industry, marijuanatimes.org. The Marijuana Time Show, of course, is brought to you by Natureside Cannabis.com. If you are a legal cultivator in a place like Colorado or California or Oregon or Washington or anywhere else where legal cultivation is possible and is legal, then you need Natureside Cannabis. All natural, pesticides, organic. You need to make sure that your customers are getting a good product, a safe product. You also need to make sure that you are abiding by all of the regulations that are in your state, whatever they may be. They're ever changing. There's probably more coming wherever you are. There's probably already regulations as far as pesticides in cannabis as we speak. Be regulatory compliant. Make sure you grow safe and poison-free. Natureside Cannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Times Show. Our first story from marijuanatimes.org. Closed retail stores could become cannabis dispensaries and growing facilities nationwide. It's a story by Jason Sander over at marijuanatimes.org. He says the legal cannabis industry continues to expand, so does the demand for niche markets within the sector. One of those demands is the increasing amount of space that is needed for cultivation and processing facilities, and also retail space for dispensary locations. With the rise of extremely popular online shopping experiences such as Amazon, more and more shopping malls are closing their doors due to bankruptcy. Because of this, mall owners often use alternative methods to find tenants. Many of you, if you follow financial goings-on, economic goings-on in the United States, you know that the retail sector has been hit hard. Obviously, places like Sears and Kmart and others, JCPenney, whatever, they've contracted quite a bit and given a lot of ground to the online retailers like Amazon and eBay and Wayfair and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of big empty space that could be used for cannabis cultivation. Jason said one such example of this is currently occurring in Copper County Mall in Houghton, Michigan. According to MLive.com, the mall's owner is interested in entering into the cannabis industry by bringing a grow facility to the mall. In December, the township will decide on whether permits will be issued for the requested facility in the former JCPenney's department store, the aforementioned JCPenney's. And as he points out, there's a lot of these places around the country. Obviously, the stigma surrounding it right now is pretty major. You know, this is something that's going to be a long-time experiment. One mall will do it, then, one retailer will do it, and then they'll do it like a strip mall. And before you know it, it becomes more and more commonplace. The more landlords and building owners that are willing to rent out space to medical marijuana and marijuana retailers and cultivators. And all of that is very interesting. But as Jason points out, there's a lot of space. The cannabis industry needs space. Those two things are going to come together probably sooner rather than later. This next story is from Washington Post. The Washington Post. Medical marijuana took a bite out of alcohol sales. Recreational pot could take an even bigger one. This is by Christopher Ingram over at the Washington Post. He said alcoholic beverage sales fell by 15% following the introduction of medical marijuana laws in a number of states, according to a new working paper by researchers at the University of Connecticut and Georgia State University. The study adds to a growing body of evidence showing that marijuana availability can reduce alcohol consumption, because experts generally agree that on balance, alcohol use is more harmful to individuals and society than marijuana use. This represents a significant public health benefit of marijuana legalization. Now, for the study, researchers used alcohol sales data in Nielsen's retail scanner database which includes product level sales from 90 retail chains across the United States. So this is obviously more an accurate way of doing it, because a lot of this alcohol data comes from surveys. You call people up and ask them, how much they drink or whatever, and people are not exactly forthcoming with that information, or they tend to lowball, as Christopher uses the phrase here, lowball their alcohol consumption when asked about it by interviewers. The researchers compared alcohol sales between states that implemented medical marijuana laws and those that didn't before and after the change in marijuana laws. They also corrected for a number of economic and demographic variables known to affect alcohol use, such as age, race, and income. And it's it's not surprising. A lot of people, if given the choice, the legal choice between marijuana and alcohol, would choose marijuana, and they will, and they should be able to. That's the whole point. If they want to drink alcohol, that's fine. If they want to smoke marijuana, that's fine. Should be allowed to do what they want to do as long as they're not infringing on the rights of anyone else. Continuing now, this is from PBS.org. The Army is issuing more waivers for recruits who used marijuana. As more states lessen or eliminate marijuana penalties, the Army is granting hundreds of waivers to enlist people who used the drug in their youth, as long as they realize they can't do so again in the military. The number of waivers granted by the active duty Army for marijuana use jumped to more than 500 this year, up from 191 in 2016. 3 years ago, no such waivers were granted. So you can see how quickly things are moving from 0 to over 500 in the space of 3 years. The big increase is just one of many ways officials are dealing with orders to expand the Army's size. Quote, provided they understand that they cannot do that when they serve in the military, I will waive that all day long, said Major General Jeff Snow, head of the Army's recruiting command. The marijuana exclusions represent about 1/4 of the total misconduct waivers the Army granted in the budget year that ended September 30th. They accounted for as much as 50%. Much of the 50% increase, where would I go? And overall recruits who needed a waiver for some type of misconduct. So basically the Army's looking for people. And again, it's another example of the stigma surrounding marijuana falling away. It's not going to happen overnight. But the Army, as long as you say you tell them you're not going to you're not going to use marijuana while you're in the Army, which, good luck with that. Like a lot of people in the Army use marijuana, but as long as you tell them you're not going to, they're going to see fit to waive your past use. And look, I'm one of those people that, I would think that marijuana will probably improve most situations that you're in. But I think that if you need to be alert in a combat zone, it may be one of those times where you can just, maybe you need to back off a little bit. Maybe that's too much. You really need to be ready. I guess you could use a sativa and, and whatever. Again, it's up to you. If you want to run that risk, I'm not recommending that at all. I'm giving no legal advice whatsoever. And the Marijuana Times and its sponsors disavow any legal advice that it would seem that I am giving, because I am not giving legal advice. Army data shows more than 8,000 recruits received waivers in 2017, compared with about 6,700 last year. Most waivers concerned physical or mental health. In total, the Army enlisted almost 69,000 recruits this year, close to 6,000 more than last year. So in other words, as I said, the Army's looking for people. Excuse me. And they want you. Uncle Sam wants you. If you smoked a little weed back in the day, well, they're willing to overlook that. A few years ago, not so much. But now they're willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. As long as you promise you're not going to do it anymore, or at least while you're in the service. That's today's episode of the Marijuana Times Show, December 4th, 2017. Go check out marijuanatimes.org for these videos, other great stories, and more. Thank you to Naturesidecannabis.com, our great sponsor, organic, all-natural pesticides for your cannabis cultivation. Natureside Cannabis, the site is CIDE, naturesidecannabis.com, a proud sponsor of the Marijuana Time Show. Thanks everybody for checking us out and sharing and spreading the word about the show. We'll see you next time.